My wife cheated while pretending to care for me after surgery, so I healed silently, built my empire, and left her watching from the sidelines, broke and alone. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and I thought I'd married my best friend. Rachel and I had been together for 6 years, married for 3. We weren't rich, but we were stable to incomes. Shared laughter. Quiet nights in front of the TV. I used to believe that was what love looked like. Comfort in the silence, loyalty in the chaos. That belief shattered the day I fell from the loading dock at work. A snapped railing, one bad step, and suddenly I was waking up in a hospital bed with tubes running from my arms in pain. Screaming through my body. Rachel was right there when I opened my eyes. Her hand clutched mine like a lifeline. "You scared me half to death," she whispered, tears streaking her face. In that moment, I felt like the luckiest man alive, injured but loved. She told me not to worry about anything, that she'd handle the bills, the insurance, the house. I wanted to believe her. I did believe her. Recovery was slow. Weeks blurred into months. She helped me eat, bathe, and even sit up when the pain flared. But over time, something in her eyes shifted. The pity turned to impatience. She started sighing when I asked for help, spending longer hours running errands. Her phone, once left on the counter, was now always face down. Notifications muted. One night, I woke up to an empty bed. I could hear her voice in the living room, low and soft, the kind of tone she used to reserve for me. "I just can't tonight." "He's still awake," she whispered. My stomach twisted, but I told myself I was imagining things. I didn't want to be that paranoid husband, the kind who suspects his wife while she's taking care of him. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something in my marriage had quietly cracked. While I was too broken to stand, recovery was slow, painfully slow. Every movement felt like fire crawling beneath my skin, and every day I woke up to the same ceiling, the same helplessness. Rachel was my only constant, the one I relied on for everything. She helped me with the most basic things: meals, medication, bathing in. For a while, I convinced myself that dependence was intimacy, that the exhaustion in her eyes was love stretched thin, not love fading away. But her sighs grew sharper. When I'd ask, "Can you help me adjust the pillows?" she'd mutter, "You just did that." When I apologized, she'd roll her eyes. The warmth in her voice had vanished, replaced by something clinical, almost rehearsed. I told myself she was tired. Caregiving was hard. Maybe I wasn't showing enough appreciation. So I overcompensated: flowers delivered to the house, small thank you notes scribbled with shaky hands. She barely reacted. "You don't have to do all this," she'd say flatly, scrolling through her phone. Friends began to notice. One of them, Mark, stopped by after work and whispered, "She hasn't been around much, huh? I thought she was staying at the hospital with you." I laughed it off, defending her like a fool. "She's been running errands, paying bills." "She's exhausted," I said, even though I hadn't seen a single receipt. And the fridge was getting emptier by the week. That night, after everyone left, I lay in bed listening to the faint sound of laughter from the next room. It wasn't the laugh she gave me, it was lighter, more genuine, the kind of sound that didn't belong to obligation. I froze, straining to hear the difference between background noise and heartbreak. "Stop. You're terrible," she giggled softly. The words stabbed through the quiet. I couldn't see her face, but I didn't need to. That tone-intimate teasing wasn't meant for me. For the first time, I realized recovery wasn't the only thing I was losing. Something deeper was slipping away quietly, and maybe forever. The days started blending together: painkillers, physical therapy, restless nights. Rachel had stopped sitting with me during meals, instead eating in the kitchen or claiming she wasn't hungry. She used to bring me breakfast with a smile. Now she'd just drop the plate beside me without a word. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that once I got better, we'd go back to how things were. But deep down, something in her eyes had turned distant, like she'd already packed her bags emotionally, waiting for the right moment to leave. Money started disappearing too. I noticed a few small withdrawals: at first $40 here, $100 there, but I didn't question it. I figured it was groceries or gas. Then one day, my debit card declined when I tried ordering a medical supply online. Rachel brushed it off with a quick, "I must have mixed up accounts. I'll fix it tomorrow." Her voice was calm, but her eyes avoided mine. That night, she spent an hour in the car on a call with her mom. When she came back inside, she smelled faintly of cologne that wasn't mine. I wanted to ask. God, I wanted to scream. But how do you accuse the person who's spoon-feeding you pain medication? Instead, I smiled through the ache, pretending not to notice how little time she spent at home. Then came the message. A text from an unknown number flashed on my phone while she was in the shower. "You deserve better. She's not who you think." I stared at it for minutes, my pulse pounding in my ears. I showed it to Rachel, expecting her to laugh it off. Instead, her face went pale. "Who's sending you that garbage?" She snapped. "You're paranoid. Maybe the meds are messing with your head." Her tone was sharp enough to cut. She snatched the phone from my hands and deleted the message before I could respond. That night, I lay awake, staring at the glow from under the bedroom door. Her phone buzzed softly, twice, then silence. Each vibration felt like another crack forming in the life I thought I still had. It's strange how you start noticing details you used to overlook when you stop trusting someone. The scent of unfamiliar perfume on her coat. The way she dressed up to run errands, but barely combed her hair when she was home with me. Her laughter drifting through the hallway, followed by silence when she realized I was listening. Every little thing started gnawing at me, but I was still too afraid to confront her, partly because I depended on her. Partly because I didn't want the truth to destroy whatever illusion of stability. I had left one afternoon during a checkup. A nurse who knew Rachel asked, "Is your wife enjoying her time off?" I saw her having brunch downtown a few times. She must need the break. My chest tightened. Rachel had told me she'd been working extra hours and barely had time for herself. That comment planted something dangerous in my mind out. And once it took root, it grew fast. When I got home, I installed a small GPS tracker under the passenger seat of our car. It felt pathetic, desperate. I hated myself for doing it. But the next day, when she left saying she had to meet with the insurance rep, I opened the app and watched the little dot move not toward the office, but toward a luxury apartment complex across town. My hands trembled as I zoomed in on the map. She stayed there for over 3 hours. I told myself maybe she was visiting a friend, maybe she was helping someone. But I already knew. The truth didn't need confirmation. It was already suffocating me. When she came home that night, her hair was tousled, her lipstick faintly smudged. "Traffic was awful," she said with a tired smile. I forced a nod and whispered, "Glad you're home." Inside, I felt something die quietly. It wasn't rage yet, it was worse. It was the hollow silence of realizing the person you trust most has become a stranger sleeping beside you after that day. Everything she did felt like a performance. The gentle hand on my shoulder, the soft kisses on the forehead, the casual "love you" before she left the house, it all felt scripted. I started pretending too. Pretending I didn't know. Pretending I didn't feel her slipping away. But every lie has a shadow, and hers grew darker by the day. I asked my cousin Daniel for help. He worked in IT and owed me a favor. I told him I needed to check for fraud on a shared account. But really, I wanted proof of the betrayal I was too scared to face. Within 2 days, Daniel handed me a folder filled with screenshots, texts, emails, hotel bookings. It was worse than I imagined. She wasn't just cheating. She was doing it with Nate, my former coworker, the same man who got promoted after my accident. The man who'd visited me in the hospital and said, "Don't worry, we've got things covered until you're back." In one message, Rachel wrote, "He's so clingy now. I feel like his nurse, not his wife." And Nate replied, "You don't owe him anything. You deserve someone who isn't broken." I remember staring at those words until the screen blurred from my tears. Every memory of her love, every shared secret, every promise, it all turned to poison. I could have confronted her right then. I could have screamed, thrown her out, exposed her to everyone. But instead, I stayed silent. That night, I watched her sleeping beside me, her breathing calm and steady. My mind screamed for revenge, but my body stayed still. Because anger fades, but silence lingers. So I decided to let her believe she'd fooled me. to heal quietly, to rebuild in the shadows. I wanted her to wake up one day and realize she'd cheated on a man who didn't fall apart, he evolved. In the weeks that followed, I stopped asking Rachel where she went. I stopped watching her phone or tracking the car. I didn't need to anymore. The truth had already stripped me bare. Instead, I turned all that pain inward, reshaping it into something sharper. My body was still weak, but my mind was restless. Late at night, while she slept next to me, texting her secret lover, I started teaching myself how to make money online at first. It was just a distraction: YouTube tutorials, business podcasts, online forums, but slowly it became something more. I discovered e-commerce, digital marketing, the power of building from nothing. My fingers trembled when I typed, but the feeling of progress numbed the ache in my chest. Every dollar I made felt like a step away from her, a step toward freedom. One night she caught me working. "What are you doing up so late?" she asked, half annoyed. "Just learning something new," I replied. She scoffed. "Learning? You should focus on recovery, not some online nonsense. You think you'll make money sitting at home?" Her words were meant to cut, but they only fueled me. I smiled faintly. "Maybe," I said. "You never know." She rolled her eyes and went back to bed, muttering, "You're wasting your time." But time was exactly what I had done. I was done wasting it on her. Within months, I launched a small online store. It was rough at first: mistakes, refunds, slow sales, but I kept pushing. The same discipline that carried me through physical therapy now built my business. Ironically, her neglect gave me space to grow. Her absence gave me clarity. And every night she left the house to see friends, I whispered to myself, "Go ahead. Keep underestimating me," because the man she betrayed was gone. The man rising from his ashes would never need her again. By the time my business started gaining traction, our marriage was nothing but an act. We were two strangers playing husband and wife, smiling in public, silent at home. Rachel had perfected the art of pretending. She'd cook dinner just to post it on social media with captions like "taking care of my man." Even though we hadn't eaten together in weeks, I used to get angry seeing those lies, but now I just studied them. Every fake gesture told me more about who she truly was, and less about the woman I thought I'd married. My online store had finally started making money. A few hundred turned into a few thousand. Then came the viral product, the one that changed everything. I'll never forget the night I checked my dashboard and saw the sales spike. For the first time in a long while, my heart raced with something other than pain. Rachel noticed, of course. "Why are you smiling at your laptop like that?" she asked one night. "Just happy it's working," I said. She frowned. "What's working?" "That online scam you've been wasting time on." I laughed softly. "You'll see." She shrugged and left to grab a drink with coworkers. That's when I realized she didn't even bother hiding her absences anymore. The lies had lost polish. The effort wasn't worth it. She was waiting for me to crumble again, to give her a reason to justify walking out. But instead, I was rebuilding behind her back. One sale, $1. One silent victory at a time. Soon I opened a separate bank account, just mine. Every cent went there. No joint access, no traces. The plan was forming, clean and quiet, while she wasted nights with her affair. I spent mine crafting the life she'd never be part of again. She thought she'd broken me. All she'd done was give me a reason to rise. It happened on a Friday night, one of those nights. The air felt heavy with something unspoken. Rachel told me she was hosting a small get-together for some coworkers. I didn't argue. I'd gotten good at pretending not to care. She cleaned the house for the first time in months, lit candles, even wore perfume I hadn't smelled since before the accident. I stayed in the bedroom, scrolling through my laptop, half listening to the muffled chatter drifting through the door. But then I heard his voice. Nate's, the man who'd smiled at me in the hospital, pretending to be a friend. My stomach turned to stone. I peeked through the cracked door just enough to see them on the couch, her hand on his knee, his arm around her shoulders. My living room. My home. Every instinct screamed to storm out, to yell, to demand answers. But I froze. My crutches leaned against the wall, mocking me. I wasn't ready to stand physically or emotionally, so I just sat there in silence, listening to them laugh over wine while I stared at my trembling hands. It felt like being buried alive, aware and helpless. At one point, I heard her giggle softly. "He's probably asleep," she whispered. "Don't worry." Those words broke something in me. She wasn't even pretending to care anymore. I realized I wasn't her husband and her eyesight was a burden, a mistake she was waiting to erase. When they left, I sat in the dark for hours, my chest aching so deeply it felt physical. That was my rock bottom. Not the accident, not the pain, not even her betrayal. This moment. The moment I realized I'd been mourning a marriage that died long before the first lie. And in that darkness, something inside me shifted. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just made a promise to myself. Once I can walk again, I'll never walk beside her. That night I started planning my exit, not in anger, but in silence. By the time I could finally stand without crutches, I had already made up my mind. There would be no dramatic confrontation, no screaming match, no emotional goodbye. Rachel didn't deserve that kind of closure. She'd thrived on my pain for too long this time. I'd leave her nothing but silence and confusion. I started with small moves, quietly, methodically. I transferred money from our joint account into my private one over several weeks. I sold off unused items, old electronics, furniture, anything that could be liquidated without her noticing. She was too busy working late and taking weekend trips with friends to care. Every dollar I moved felt like a piece of my freedom being reclaimed. I also prepared my business for a clean break. New mailing address, new legal documents, new accounts. Everything tied solely to me. Meanwhile, I pretended to still be fragile, to still need her. "Thanks for the soup," I'd say with a weak smile as she dropped a bowl on my lap before heading out again. She didn't even notice the suitcases missing from the attic, or the gaps on the bookshelf where my important files used to be. The night before I left, I wrote her a note. Not an apology, not a plea, just truth. You were supposed to help me heal. Instead, you taught me what to live without. I placed it on her pillow and slipped out at dawn. I didn't slam the door or take one last look back. I just drove away in the used car I'd quietly bought under my business name, feeling the weight of every unspoken word lift from my chest by the time she woke up. The house was half empty, the accounts frozen, and my phone disconnected. For the first time in years, she'd feel what I had lost: confusion, in silence. And for the first time in years, I finally felt alive. I moved to a small apartment in another city. Nothing flashy, just quiet, peaceful. The kind of silence that didn't sting like hers used to. I furnished it with what little I had and poured everything else into my business. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but it became fuel. Every early morning, every sleepless night, every late shipment or technical glitch, I tackled it like it was war. And slowly my store exploded. The viral product that had once trickled sales now flooded my inbox with orders. I hired a freelancer to help with logistics, then another for marketing. Within 6 months, I had a full team. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. I saw Rachel's name pop up one day while reviewing old emails linked to our shared domain. She had tried logging into the business account I left behind, only to be denied access. I imagined her face reading the error. "You no longer have permission." That alone was enough closure for me. I never blocked her on social media. I didn't need to. Let her watch. Let her scroll through the life of the man she once dismissed as clingy and broken. I posted rarely. But when I did, it was enough: an office photo, a business award, a vacation view. There were no captions, just proof. I didn't want revenge in the way movies show it, no public shaming, no cruel games. My success was the loudest response I could give. The same man who once lay broken in her care was now a CEO running a 6-figure business. And Rachel. Last I checked, she was working a retail job, single. Still posting filtered selfies, pretending everything was fine. She used to roll her eyes at my online nonsense. Now, it pays for the life she'll never be part of. It had been over 2 years since I left. By then, The business had matured into something stable and scalable. I'd been invited to speak at a mid-sized entrepreneur summit, something I would have never imagined while lying broken in that old bed. I was standing by the registration table, flipping through my notes, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" I turned. Rachel. She looked older. Not in the sense of age, but in wear. The confident stride she once carried had dulled. Her makeup heavier than I remembered, as if she was painting over something broken. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Her smile faltered when she realized I wasn't surprised to see her I had known this day might come. "Wow. I didn't expect to see you here," she said, trying to keep her tone light. I raised an eyebrow. "Why? Because I was supposed to stay broken?" She looked away. "Didn't mean it like that. I've heard you're doing well." I nodded. "Yeah, business is good. Life is better." Her eyes scanned my outfit, the name tag that read keynote speaker, founder and CEO. "I didn't realize you'd come this far," she said quietly. I smiled, calm and unshaken. "That's because you never bothered to look past what was broken." Before she could respond, the event coordinator called me to the stage. I walked past her with a polite nod and stepped into the spotlight. The applause was real. The success was mine. She sat in the crowd, no longer center stage in my life, but just a ghost in the audience. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't need her to hurt, just to watch. It's strange, really. I used to think closure would come with confrontation, a final argument, a chance to scream, to ask why. But now I know that true closure is quiet. It doesn't need an audience. It arrives when you no longer feel the need to prove anything to the person who broke you. After that conference, I never heard from Rachel again. No calls, no apology, no email, just silence, and I didn't chase it. I had nothing left to say. I'd already said everything with my actions by walking away, by building something beautiful from the ruins she left behind. People ask me sometimes, "How'd you get through it?" And the truth is, I didn't, not in the way people expect. I didn't move on like flipping a switch. I rebuilt, brick by painful brick. I turned late nights into strategy sessions, tears into traction, and silence into strength. I don't hate her anymore. I don't even think of her with anger. She was a lesson, a brutal one, but necessary. She taught me exactly what love is not, the final twist. A few months ago, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, just 4 words scribbled inside. "I miss the old you." I didn't reply. There was nothing to say to someone who only loved the version of me that was broken, dependent, and easy to manipulate. The old me died the moment I chose myself over her comfort. Today, I live in a place I chose, surrounded by people I trust, running a business I built with my own hands. And sometimes, when the world is quiet, I think back to that hospital bed, to the helpless man staring at the ceiling, wondering if life was already over. He didn't just survive. He became someone she'd have to watch from the sidelines, broke, bitter, and blocked from ever coming close again. And that is peace.